Right, so let's look at the highlights of the conference. Rishi Sunak announced some of what he describes as radical policies.
The Labour Party have set out their stall to do and say as little as possible and hopes no one notices. They want to take people's votes for granted and keep doing politics the same old way. So if this country is to change, then it can only be us who will deliver it. Today I will set out how we will achieve this, beginning with a set of long-term decisions to build a brighter future for our children and to fundamentally change our country.
The word change many times in that speech, because what he's trying to do is reinvent himself, and the Tory party have been in power for 13, nearly 14 years. He's trying to say, I'm new, I've got a new vision. And actually, I think it was a good speech, because he's not a brilliant orator, let's be honest.
No, I think it was a good speech.
There was a lot in it.
There was a lot in it, and it was a good speech. It was very engaging. Obviously, having his wife, Akshanta Murphy, to start with, I found a little odd, I have to say.
And she spoke for too long.
And she spoke for way too long. And if having her on stage was designed to humanise him, it just kind of gave the impression that she was super posh, and actually sort of confirmed the idea that he's from a billionaire family. And I'm sorry, nobody likes their husband that much. Nobody likes their husband that much. He's my best friend, we're amazing. Come on.
Yeah, why didn't she say he never does the washing up?
Yes.
Or he never does the drying up? Or he always leaves his pants on the floor? That sort of thing,
yes.
which is what happens with...
Would be relatable, yeah. But let us know what you thought of it, gbviews@gbnews.com.
Simon Danchik's here, former Labour MP. Simon, as a Labour man, looking at that conversation, how well do you think he did?
I think he did quite well, if I'm being objective and fair about this, not tribal. I think he did pretty well. His back's against the wall. He's come out fighting. He's got people in the room that want his job. And he's made a speech, and talking about his tone and everything else, I actually thought, listening to him, he sounded a bit like Tony Blair. You were right, actually. He's not a very good orator.
I think there's a problem
with your mic, Simon, so we're going to get that fixed, because we want to hear from you, so it means we have to hear a bit more. Let's hear a little more from Rishi Sunak. Well, my highlight was the speech. The two speeches, which were a great success, were Kemi Badenoch, the Home Secretary's,
Suella Braverman.
And I think Rishi Sunak delivered a pretty good speech.
I do think he did a good speech. Well, I mean, we were joking about the fact that we had left early. We left in the minibus. That's because a lot of people had left early because of obviously the massive train strike yesterday. So the conference centre itself was quieter, but the hall was packed when Rishi Sunak gave his speech. Obviously introduced on stage by Penny Mordaunt, who did a tub-thumping military-esque sort of introduction, which pitching for the leadership.
14 times. We've got Simon Township back. You're mic'd up, Simon. So you're saying from an objective point of view...
Yeah, from an objective view, he performed particularly well. His back is up against the wall and he's come out fighting. He's got people in the room that want his job, Suella Braverman and others, and yet he's come out, made quite a good speech. We talked about the tone of his speech. I think he sounded a little bit like Tony Blair, actually, in terms of making this speech. He's not a great orator, as you point out, but he performed particularly well. And what he has done is create some dividing lines with Labour. And he's really challenging Labour. Do you agree with the cuts in HS2? He'll probably have a vote on it in Parliament. Net zero, he'll have a vote on it in Parliament. Does Labour agree with this or not? Labour have already voted against the Rwanda policy in the illegal immigration bill. So he's really challenging them. They've been trying to sit on the fence, let the Conservatives lose the next general election. He's bringing them into the fight.
And you were a Northern MP for many years. How well do you think he sold the idea of ditching London to Manchester, which we know, well, Lord Berkeley, who's the great expert on it, who said would probably have cost £180 billion. How well do you think did he get away with it by saying he's going to spend the £36 billion that was originally earmarked on lots of different transport projects in the North and the Midlands? Did he get away with it?
Well, I think he did. I am a regular commuter up to Manchester and back. I go up later today, so I'm up and down all the time.
You're not going in a minibus?
No, I'm going on a Avanti West Coast. It's probably better in the minibus. But and there is a capacity issue there, especially if we want to move haulage onto the rail more and take it off the roads. But there is this big issue about it costing an absolute fortune. And I think he'll get brownie points for having made the decision he has. And bear in mind, you know, you hear from Andy Burnham with a very simplistic argument. I've got close family members who have no desire to come to London, who've never been to London. So they have no skin in the game in terms of HS2.
I think that's the case for a lot of people, actually.
Absolutely. So I think he's got away with it.
I mean, Bev's from Manchester, and you don't...
Lots of my friends up there were saying, we weren't bothered anyway. We don't need to get to London 10 minutes quicker or get back from London 10 minutes quicker. It doesn't matter. Improve the Wi-Fi on the service.
Yes.
Don't just try to emulate the French model and somehow show... We don't need it. We didn't want it necessarily. And the money is extortionate. So I think the fact that he's pulled the plug on that is, I think, is very popular with people, except Andy Burnham.
Yeah. And of course, it's going to put pressure on Labour next week. Because Starmer's conference is next week. Is he going to endorse this and then cancel all the other projects that he's talking about? Hull and Leeds and Liverpool, all going to benefit.
Yeah, that's right. It really makes it... It's dragging Starmer into the fight, isn't it? That's what it's all about. I think there are real questions about why it's run over so much. And Cameron, Gordon Brown, others coming out, Osborne coming out saying he shouldn't cancel it, even Johnson saying he shouldn't cancel it. They've been responsible for it, the overrun in terms of the cost.
Oh, it's disgusting.
And Boris Johnson cancelled the link to Leeds. Who's he to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, given that we're spending £110 billion on the debt alone in this country, we can do without these projects which are just looking profligate to people. Well, they don't look it, they are profligate.
And what do you cut? What's the alternative cuts that you're going to make? So I think he will get some credit
for having
made a tough decision.
What about the smoking ban? He's aping what happened in New Zealand. So if you're 40, they're going to raise the year every year how old you are to buy. Look, at the moment you can't buy a fag if you're 14. Do we need this ban?
Well, I'm an ex-smoker, and I enjoy the fumes from cigarettes that I smell now. You know, I could have a cigarette tomorrow or today even.
But don't.
Because once I have one, I can't smoke socially. I'm back into it. So I think something has to be done about it. But it does seem exceptionally draconian, doesn't it? So I am a bit libertarian on these issues and think if people want to smoke, they should.
Instinctively, I am. But when I think about it, we just don't want kids to smoke.
No.
That's the point.
Yeah.
And if we make it more difficult for them to smoke, isn't that a good thing?
I think, isn't the problem, isn't the issue that kids aren't smoking? A lot of people aren't smoking, so suddenly the tobacco industry and actually the government taxes on smoking, they're not getting them in the same way. So funnily enough, they're like, OK, well, we can move on smoking. They're not really fixing a problem because the problem isn't really there anymore. One of the biggest public health triumphs, I would say, has been the ban on smoking inside in public areas. It's had a massive impact. I'm not comfortable with the idea that the state can tell an adult you can't buy a product that is available.
And it will push it underground, inevitably, won't it?
100%.
Nigel Farage made that point. The underground fags industry is now going to go into overdrive. And of course, if they start with smoking, what about then processed meat? Very bad for obesity crisis. What about alcohol?
So naturally, I think it's not right to go as far as he's doing.
What do you think Keir Starmer would do with it, Simon, with that?
Oh, I think that's interesting because he's probably on the same page, I would have imagined. Just instinctively think that Starmer would probably buy into that.
But Sunak was clever. He said it will be a free vote. He's not going to make this a party issue. So Tory MPs don't want to do it because there are a lot of libertarians on the backbench who would take your view and say, I ain't doing that.
I don't think it'll get through, actually.
You don't?
No.
That's very interesting. What do you think a lot of your ex-colleagues will...
Well, yeah, and I would have been the same. I came into Parliament after the vote on whether you could smoke inside in pubs, and I would have compromised on that if I'd have been voting, because a lot of working class people enjoy a cigarette. And I have some sympathy with that.
Me
the thing
too.
about that smoking ban I really objected to was when they said private clubs weren't allowed to... Actually... Mind it. That should be up to members of private clubs to take that decision. They imposed it. But actually, people have got along with it now, haven't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
He did say he's going to crack down on the marketing of vapes, because we've talked about it many times on this show. Parents and grandparents watching at home get very incensed, I am one of them, about the fact that these vape products are targeted to children. But I'd like to know a little bit more on the detail of that. What does a crackdown on the marketing of them mean? Because it doesn't sound like he's going to put many limits on those businesses.
I think he's going to say that Are they really going to say you can no longer have a bubblegum flavoured vape? I mean, are they really going to get into the minutiae of that?
I don't think they can do that, but where they are promoted and where they, marketed, I think they can probably affect it as they have done with gambling and everything else.
I don't know if you're reassured that a man is a man and a woman's a woman, because Rishi Sunak was quite clear about that. Your bloke, Keir Starmer, struggles with this.
Keir does struggle with it, and it will be something that the public are reminded about up to the day of the election, isn't it? Quite rightly. I mean, Keir has just called it wrong on a number of those sort of cultural, social issues, whether it's taking the knee in his office for Black Lives Matter through to struggling to define a woman. These are real problems for Keir, actually.
Can we just want to say that your son Milton came to see us on the stand yesterday.
He was terrific.
Lovely Milton. Here he is. He was on the show yesterday. We gave him a little bit of work experience. Simon, you'll be pleased to know.
Age 15, and he's a member of the Tory party. So unlike his father, he's seeing the true light.
Yes, he joined several months ago, and unbeknown to me, and then when we were having a chat one day, he says, "Oh, by the way, I've joined the Conservative Party," and ever since he's been campaigning in Rochdale. He's met Rishi Sunak, he's met Suella Braverman. He's enjoying it.
Are you pleased?
I'm really pleased. I put out a tweet, a few weeks ago saying I'm really proud of him. People who get involved in public life, it's a tough gig, isn't it, if we're honest about it, but he's really going for it. He enjoys it.
Amazing.
I warned him against the danger of making a speech on the conference platform, age 15. Remember William Hague?
Yes.
Haunted by that speech for the rest of his life, wasn't he?
Yes, I've seen that.